Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to a preview of this game right here. This is Bunny Boom. It is published by Ruse Games, who is sponsoring today's video, so a huge thank you to them, and it's designed by Gim. And in Bunny Boom, there has been an invasion of bunnies, and basically you are trying to be the player with the least amount of bunnies at the end of the game. You are trying to avoid having too many bunnies in your home. So this is a game for 2 to 4 players. It plays in about 15 minutes, so it is a great quick filler game, and it plays ages 14 plus. So if you guys want to hear more about Bunny Boom, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy. Also hit the subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. I will have down in the description box a link to the Bunny Boom campaign. When this video goes up, I believe it will already be live, so definitely go and check it out. It is over on Gamefound, but without further ado, let's get into a quick overview of the game, look at all the components, which I will say right now are all prototype and subject to change, and then we'll get into a full how to play the game, all of the different small little modules you can add to the game, so on and so forth. So let's get into that, shall we? All right, so getting into a little bit of an aim of the game, like I mentioned in the intro, everybody is going to be playing as a villager of the town, and this town has been invaded by bunnies. So these bunnies are multiplying, and there are just too many bunnies around, and you are trying to be the player at the end of the game with the least amount of bunnies. You are going to be playing cards. This is a fast-paced kind of card-playing tactical game where you are pretty much trying to screw over your opponents, trying to give them all the bunnies and avoid getting bunnies for yourself. So you're going to be playing down cards, moving your character around these areas, which I will say in different player counts, you're going to be filling up different kind of rows. For a 2-player game, you're only going to be doing the left and the right. For a 3-player game, you'll do left, right, and the top. And then for a 4-player game, you're going to do all 4. So up, down, left, right. But you're going to be continuing to play down these cards until one of 2 things happens to trigger the end of the game. And then whoever has the least amount of bunnies at the end of the game is going to be the winner. So that is a little overview of Bunny Boom, but let's get into the components. So you guys can see here that I do have this nice playmat. This is a playmat, and I do believe that this will be an add-on or some sort of thing that you can get during the campaign. There is also additionally a board in here that is actually like a full-on puzzle, which I do love when board games have like that puzzle board instead of having to like fold it out. It's really easy to just put the puzzle together. So this right here is the playmat, but there is in the box the normal board. So you have that. Every player is going to get their little home board here. There are 4 different characters: orange, yellow, purple, and gray, which I will say I love when games have some very interesting like player colors. I despise when games have your typical red, blue, green, and yellow. Not a fan, but you know, if I have to choose, I will choose green, obviously for the garden, but I really enjoy the very unique player colors of Bunny Boom. So we have those. Each player will then get their coordinating character. I do have a 2-player game set up here, so the orange and the yellow are in the center here. So you're gonna have this center tile depending on the player count. This here does show arrows to the left and the right, being for a 2-player. It points up for a 3-player, and then if you're playing a 4-player game, you just flip it over to the other side, and it just has up, down, left, and right. So everyone knows what places they can and can't place their cards. You also, like I said, have your characters on the starting space, and then we have the carrot, which is a very interesting part of the game, and that's going to start on the center tile as well. So that is that. We also have the bunny kind of supply here. So you have the tiny, teeny little single bunny tokens, which are the smallest little bunny tokens I've ever did see. I haven't really seen a lot of bunny tokens in general, but if I have seen other ones, these are the smallest. But there's also a 5 bunny, which is a little bit bigger, and then we have the 10 bunny, which is the biggest. So that is the bunny supply. We also have the cards here, which I will deal to myself 3 cards. Each player will start with 3 cards at the beginning, and then you have the river here, which we'll get into how that works. But when you are drafting a new card, because you're going to be playing a card, and then you're going to be picking up another card, always having 3 cards in your hand, but you can also pick from the river, so you have 3 kind of face-up options to choose from, or you can just randomly take one from the top of the draw pile. So that is everything for the main player board, all of the home boards. We also have a lovely little player reference here. It has all of the different things that you're going to need, all the play effects, the variants, the suits, all the things that you're going to need to play the game. You have that there. And then we also have a timer, which this is kind of a thing that you can add if you choose to do, or if you choose to do so. I will get into what that is. And then over here, we also have some additional cards and some additional tokens for some modules. So you have the burrow module here with this black token, and then you have the fox module. So I will get into what those add to the game at the end of the video, but that is pretty much everything for the overview as well as the components. Obviously you have the box, you have the rule book, and yeah, without further ado, let's get into exactly how Bunny Boom plays so you guys can get a better feel if this is something that you want to look more into and possibly back over on Gamefound. So getting into exactly how Bunny Boom plays, like I've already mentioned, each player is going to have their home board. Their character will be placed in the center of the main board. Each player is going to start with 1 bunny on their home board. So we all start with at least 1 little bunny in our house. You also start with the carrot in the center, like I mentioned. For a 2-player game, you are going to just shuffle up the purple backed cards. Each player will get 3 cards into their hand at the starting of the game. If you are playing a 3-player or a 4-player game, you are additionally going to shuffle in these yellow backed or orange backed cards as well. And then obviously if you are playing with one of the modules, either the fox module or the burrow module, you are going to shuffle in the respective cards as well for that. And then also, if you do decide to use the timer, which I will let you guys know what this is. So if you want to kind of have this game not be too long and really be a fast-paced, kind of fun, chaotic game, you can use the timer. And basically what this is on a player's turn, you're going to flip over the timer, and it is going to be 15 seconds that that player has to play down their card. So if they cannot play down their card within the 15 seconds, so if the sand timer runs out before they play down their card, they unfortunately do have to pay a penalty, and they have to look at the river. You're going to look in the top right-hand corner of each of the cards in the river, and whichever one has the highest number of bunnies in the top right-hand corner, that's how many bunnies that player will have to add to their home. So if you cannot play your card quick enough and you have a little bit of AP, then unfortunately you're going to get penalized with adding more bunnies into your house. So if you want to play that, you can. You don't have to play with it if you're okay with just a chill game of Bunny Boom, but if you want it to be a little bit more chaotic, then you can add in the timer. But yes, that is everything for the setup. So let's get into exactly what you're going to be doing on your turn. At the beginning of every turn, each player is going to have 3 cards in their hand, and on your turn, you are simply just choosing one of the cards in your hand and then playing it down onto one of the available spaces, which I'll get into what an available space is and kind of where you're going to be placing these cards. But before we get into that, I do want to go over a little bit of an anatomy of one of these cards. So this is one of the cards here, and there are going to be a few different kind of pieces of information on this card. Specifically, there are going to be 5 different pieces of information. So in the top left-hand corner is always going to be a different icon on a different colored flag. So this is going to be the suit of the card. So the suits are going to come into play when it comes to layering cards and when a spot is either an open space or a closed space, which I will get into. But that is the suit that you're going to be paying attention to for that in the top left-hand corner. In the top right-hand corner, I briefly explained this when it came to the timer, but top right-hand corner is going to be a little bunny icon with a number, and that is going to be the amount of bunnies that you have to place into your home for various reasons. So one of them being if you ran out of time, if you were using the timer, you'd look at the river, whatever one has the highest number, that's how many bunnies you would put into your home. But this is also going to be the amount of bunnies that you have to add to your home if you decide to leave a space open, which I will get into. But that is that number in that top left-hand corner, or top right-hand corner, sorry. And then additionally, you have these three things at the bottom. So the furthest left one is going to be the action or the play effect that is going to happen when you play down this card. So there are various play effects that are going to happen. They are all in the rule book, and there are a bunch of different ones. And this icon here, for example, is that once you played this card, you would, usually when you play down a card, you move your character straight to that card, which I will get into. But with this icon, instead of moving your character to this card, you'd actually move your character to the center tile, which would be very, very helpful in some situations, which we'll get into. So that's that icon. There's additionally, you know, like getting rid of a bunny. You can also give the carrot to another player, which we'll get into. You can also give bunnies from your home to other players. Different things like that. There are a bunch of different play effects that can happen. Moving on to the center icon here, this is a river effect. And the river effect will only ever happen if you trigger a river effect and this card is in the river. So whenever you play down a card and your instant effect has a little river beside it, that means that once you have triggered the play effect, when you played a card down, you would then be able to trigger a river effect of any of the cards that are in the river. So in this situation here, there's actually only one card in the river that has a river effect, and you have to perform a river effect if you're able to. So it's not an action that you can kind of say no to, you have to do it if you are able. So this one here in the river is that you would swap one of the cards in your hand with one randomly chosen one from another villager. So you would pretty much just be swapping with another player who's playing the game with you. There are various other river effects as well. So there is one where you just discard a card from your hand to the bottom of the draw deck and then you pick up a new one. There's also one where you draw up to your 3 cards and then all players will pass their hand to the player to their right. So everyone kind of switches their hand of cards. So there's a bunch of different ones that can happen, but that is only going to happen when you play down a card that has a river action or river effect little icon. So that is the center icon there. And you also have the far right icon, and this is a movement effect. So what this means, and this is a really big part of the game, basically when you place down a card, so let me just say this card was here and then I played this card down here. So whenever you play down a card, you must move directly to the card that you played. So most of the time, I will say that you do want to try to play cards very close to where you are because, so let's say for example, I place this card here. Whatever cards I move through, I do have to trigger that card's movement effect. So not the one that you end up on. You don't have to trigger the movement effect on that one, but every other card that you move through from the spot that you were before to the card that you played, you do have to trigger that movement effect. So in this situation here, I moved through this one card, and that movement effect was adding one bunny from the supply to my home. So I would have to add that bunny to here. So that is a lot of the gameplay, is you're playing down one of the cards from your hand, and then you are moving your character to that spot. So like I said with that one card, for example, with the instant effect of being able to move your character from where you were, and instead of moving it to the card that you played, moving it to the center, that might actually save you from having to trigger more of those movement effects. So that is that. So that is everything for all of the different icons on the cards, which it is this one that I had before. So going back to what you were doing on your turn, you're simply going to be taking one of the 3 cards from your hand and then placing it down. So let's just say I used this card, I played it down here. I would immediately do the kind of play effect of this card. So that would be immediately getting rid of one bunny from my home. And then this actually triggers a river effect. So the only river effect that I have here is I would trade a card from my hand with one from another player's hand. So I might look at them, say, I don't really want this one. I would give this to the player and then they would give me one of their cards back. Obviously I have no one else here, so I'm just gonna pick one up, but pretend this one came from another villager or another opponent. And then that would be my turn. I would move my character here. And then because I didn't pass through any other cards, that would be at the end of my turn. I would draw back up to 3 cards in my hand. It would move on to the next player. All right, so fast forwarding a little bit to this situation right here, which you guys will see there is pretty much 1 card on every single space. I wanted to show you guys one of the cards, which this is a very special card because this is the Bunny Boom card. So I do believe there are a few of these in the deck, and basically this is going to trigger a Bunny Boom. So obviously that is what the game is called, but when it comes to the Bunny Boom card, when I play this down on my turn, I don't actually trigger the effect until after this next phase, which would be moving my character to this card, and then you would trigger the Bunny Boom effect, which that is going to be that you will take 1 bunny and you're going to place a bunny onto every single card that is currently out. So in this situation, I would place 1 on every single card because there was unfortunately a Bunny Boom. And then moving forward, all of the bunnies that are on cards are going to be picked up by the players that move through them first, additionally on top of the movement penalties. So if I move through these 2 cards, I do have to pick up both of these, and then additionally 3 more bunnies for the movement effects on those cards. So next we're gonna move into the part of the game where the suits come into play. So like I mentioned, each of the cards is going to have a suit in the top left-hand corner, and you guys will see here with this situation, all of the spots for this 2-player game to the left and the right of the center are filled with 1 card. So now, moving forward for the rest of the game, instead of just playing a card onto an empty space, you are going to have to play a card onto another card. And this is, like I said, where you're going to be paying attention to the suits. So this is when the open spaces and closed spaces are going to start to happen. So when I say open space and closed space, what I am meaning is if you ever play a card that has a different suit than the one that you're laying on top of. So in this situation here, if I wanted to play a card beside my character here, this has the moon suit, but the card that I'm layering on top is a leaf suit. So if I played this leaf suit on top of this moon suit, unfortunately, that means that I am going to have to add the amount of bunnies in the top right-hand corner here of the card that I'm placing into my home. So in this situation, it would be 2. So I would add 2 bunnies into my home, and this space is still open. So whenever you play a card on top of another card that has a different suit, that actually remains open and more cards can be placed on top of that until that stack is finally closed. And when I say closed, I mean that the next time, so in that situation I would have moved here, but let's say I was over here a little bit later in the game and I played a card on top of this pile that had the same suit. So this one here is a leaf now, and this is the same suit, a leaf. I could place this over top of this. I would not gain any of the bunnies, but this space is now closed. So because I played the same suit, it is now closed and you can no longer place any cards onto this space. So in this specific situation here, when I placed down this card, the instant effect here is that I actually get to move to the center space. So I would simply take my character, instead of moving it all the way to the card that I just played, gaining all of these bunnies, I would simply move from the card that I'm already on to the center. And then going forward, like I said, this space will no longer be able to have any cards played on it, but you still can or still have to take the movement penalty when you move through that card. So if any other player were to move through this card, they would gain the bunny that's on them here, but then additionally you would gain the movement penalty here on the card, which is gaining another bunny to your home. All right, and then quickly, I do want to explain the carrot token because I'm sure you guys are wondering, what the heck does the carrot token mean? So like I mentioned, there is an instant play effect that is the carrot token. And basically what this is, so for example, if on my turn I played this card Here, the play effect would be that you would be able to choose one of any of your opponents to move their player to that card, and then they would immediately gain the carrot token. So because this is obviously a 2-player only game, my only other opponent is yellow, so I would take their character token here, and I would actually move them from where they are and move them all the way to the card that I just played that had that carrot token instant effect. And you would actually trigger, or they would actually trigger, all of the movement effects. So in this situation, they're here, they would move 1 to here, they'd pick up this bunny token, and then additionally 2 more for the card's icons. And then they would move on to this card, and they would gain the carrot token. So this they would place onto their board, and the player that has the carrot token at the end of the game adds 4 additional bunnies to their home at the end of the game. So obviously you want less bunnies, so the carrot token is not great to have at the end of the game. So you're kind of trying to give it to other players as the game goes on. And obviously whenever you give that carrot token, they're gonna have to come all the way. So it's kind of funny when you're making a player come from like complete other side of the board all the way to your card that you just placed to give them the carrot token. So play would continue like this, with each player taking turns, playing down a card, doing the play effects, possibly taking a river action, moving their character, taking any movement actions that they would pass on the way there. And then once one of 2 things happens, which one is once the deck has run out, the game would end, or if all spaces were locked. So once all spaces have 2 matching suits at the top, that is going to trigger the end of the game as well. Once the game has ended in one of those 2 ways, each player will still have 3 cards in their hand, and they're going to look at the 3 numbers of bunnies in the top right-hand corner. They are going to add that many bunnies to their home. So if I had these 3 at the end of the game, I have a 3, and a 2, so I would immediately add 8 bunnies to my home. So I would take those, add them to my home. The character that does have the carrot would immediately add 4 bunnies to their home. And then once that has happened, all players would count up the amount of bunnies that they had in their house, and the player with the least amount of bunnies would be the winner. So quickly before I end off the video, I do want to mention the 2 modules that you can add in. So whatever one you decide to add in, you could decide to add 1, you could decide to add both, or none at all. But there is the burrow module as well as the fox module. So first off, you have the burrow module, and if you ever played down a burrow card, the instant effect on this one is that you would add the burrow token to your home, and then throughout the rest of the game, whenever a player walks over a burrow card, you can immediately give them one of your bunnies from your home, you throw it down the hole, and it, somehow shows up in their home. And then the second module is the fox module, and very much like the burrow module, you do have cards that you will shuffle into the deck, and then you have the fox token that at the beginning of the game will start on the center token along with the carrot token as well as your characters. And basically what's going to happen is when you get a fox card using the fox module and you play it down on a space, the play effect for that card is that you are going to move the fox from where it is to the card that you just played, and if the fox ever passes through a card that has one of the other characters, that will then allow you to give one of your bunnies to that character. So in a 3 or 4 player game, if you can manage to make the fox go through all of the cards that other players are on, you could potentially get rid of quite a few bunnies that way. All right, friends, so that is going to be everything for today's preview of Bunny Boom. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it gave you a good feel if this is something for you and if you guys want to go check it out. Like I mentioned, I will have the link to the campaign down below in the description box if you want to go and check it out. A huge thank you again to Ruse Games for sponsoring today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button down below if you yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. And yeah, I love you guys so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends.